So I've decided to call myself the comic book obsessive, and then I made a video about comic books I've obsessed about in the past. And I asked myself the question, or I promised I would make a video sort of off the cuff. I just, I'm going to make a video about comic books that obsess me right now. And realized that that's a little trickier, that it takes a little bit of hindsight almost, or it's easier to be obsessed by something if it's just even slightly in the past. But I'm going to try and talk about comics that might be obsessing me now, or might become, in hindsight, at some point, comics that I obsess about. I think the closest to something that I'm, can fit an obsession right now is Richard Corbin's current output, where he's mostly been taking on Edgar Allan Poe stories and adopting them in really cool ways, putting his own stamp on them, even more than he did a long time ago when he adapted a bunch of Edgar Allan Poe stories, I think, for Creepy and Eerie. So I'm kind of obsessed by these. I'm actually missing an issue of The Fall of the House of the Usher because that came out during the period of my fast from comic books. And so I've got to hunt that down, and I would be very upset if I can't find a copy, frankly. And I'm very eager for Corbin to do more of these. And I want to hunt down any other kind of uniquely Corbin books he's put out. He did Rage More not too long ago, and that was quite cool, although it wasn't written by him. I actually think I like him best when he's writing and drawing. So that's a definite kind of mini obsession right now. And another one kind of along those lines, perhaps because of its rarity and how often it comes out, is Frankenstein Alive. What's that? Issue number 2. And so far there's only been 2 issues. And you can spend hours looking at the artwork here, and I'm pretty uptight. I want to make sure that Royston keeps doing this. I want more of these issues. I'm sure, especially if they bring it out in an oversized trade, that I'll really want it that way too. These are just beautiful, beautiful comic book art, with a decent script by Steve Niles. But it is the art that's the superstar here. I don't know if art. I think art is always I don't want to say always, but art is almost always an aspect of, if I have to obsess about something, it's got to have some art that's really a trigger for that obsession, along with good story. There's one, I didn't include it in my other obsession video, but there were times when I was really obsessed by Harvey P. Carr's American Splendor, and I had all of the issues he ever produced at one point. I don't have any of them now. I don't know what I did with those. But I never was crazy about most of the art in those, except for when R. Crumb was doing the art. But I hear that there's one of the DC ones. I stopped following him a little bit before he started doing stuff with DC, but I hear one of those has some Richard Corbin art, so I have to hunt that down. Double obsession. So then I kind of move on to stuff that maybe I'll be obsessed about. One is the current Swamp Thing with written by Charles Soule. I've been really impressed by this. And my take on it is that it's kind of a cross between the Alan Moore Swamp Thing and the Bernie Wrightson Len Wein Swamp Thing. In my mind, the Len Wein Swamp Thing was a lot of short stories that were very moody, horror stories, with the Swamp Thing kind of moving through strange events and experiences. And so this has a bit of that element with 1 or 2 issue sort of mini stories that are also part of a larger thread, and that also have something to do with the Parliament of Trees and all of that stuff, but that's more backgrounded, and so I just like that feel of the shorter stories woven together in a tapestry. I don't know if it'll really come up to obsession levels, particularly because, well, one, the the artists keep changing, and it's harder to really fixate on a comic book with constantly changing artists. Although almost all the artists have been really excellent. I think my favorite art was in this 3D issue by Jesus Saez. Although I think he's done art on one or two other issues, but it just was a real standout in here. The other thing that makes me nervous about this, about whether it'll go up to obsession levels, is that Charles Soule is now writing like 6 or 7 comic books a month. And I've really got to question whether he can keep it all together. As talented as he obviously is, he's a very solid. Reading these Swamp Things, you really trust him as a storyteller, or I do. I find him very solid and firm. But can he do this on so many comics at once? Is a big. It would be almost impossible if he could continuously do 6 comics and have them all great. Maybe some of them won't be great, but Swamp Thing will be. And I suppose as long as that continues that way, it's fine with me. Another one that is kind of on the edge of being one I could say I'm obsessed with is Wonder Woman. It's over the long haul of the New 52. For as long as the New 52 has been going, if you average it all out, this has been the best, probably the best comic book there. And I really love it. I think, and I love the mythos it's playing with and creating in its own way, using old mythos to create new. But it has the problem of changing around artists. Which keeps it on the edge of being something I would be totally obsessed by. If somehow by magic every issue were by Cliff Chiang, it would be totally in the obsession target, I think. If it continues this run, if it does another 24 issues, say we get 50 issues this good, that would be an amazing, amazing comic book run that should go down in comic book history. For some reason, I tend to be obsessive about Earth 2, and I'm not sure why. And it's always, the James Robinson scripts have been really good. They've been even better when Nicola Scott's on them, and I just breathe a deep sigh of enjoyment when I read a Nicola Scott issue of Earth 2. And she's continuing on with the new writer, and the new writer's promising, so we'll see. Time will tell. Another one, Astro City. I've obsessed about it a little bit in the past, and it's come on really strong in some of these issues in the current run, especially this issue, issue 4. But issue 5 really had me just confused. So time will kind of tell if I can maintain a really, really strong interest in Astro City. Part of me, after reading this issue, was saying, let's just switch to wait for trades. But I'll give the individual issues a few more chances. Part of the obsession worthiness of something is that you would actually want multiple copies of it. I felt more obsessed by Saga earlier on. I think I partially take it for granted. It's partially slowed down. It does have that fantastic consistency with, a really great artist who you can actually watch develop as she goes along in this series. And, it's just amazing because she's doing her own inks and colors and everything. So she's a one-woman show artistically, and it's brilliant. And the script is very, very good. So I don't know why I feel like this is a little further away from the edge of being an obsession-worthy comic book. I don't know. Maybe just because I know it's probably just going to go on and on and on for 70 or 80 issues. At least that's the feeling of it. So I feel less urgency about it somehow. I'm going to let my telephone ring, excuse me. A little more urgent because there's only 7 issues is Trillium, and I'm pretty obsessed with this. I'm very curious to see what he'll do each issue. And it's almost the fact that at first I didn't like his art, and then a few and then then it grew on me really quickly, and because I didn't like it at first and now I'm getting it, I like it even more. I think I like his art when it's color, particularly. Black and white is less exciting, or maybe it's just for this particular story. It has, a lot of my triggers, along with being kind of unique artistically and unique in its storytelling approach. It also has a pretty, what to me seems like a pretty original, strong science fiction story, and some strong character kind of aspects. So, but it's only going to be 7 issues, and it really will be to know after the fact, when all 7 issues are done, will I then want to buy a deluxe hardcover edition also, or all the digital editions, or something crazy like that. That's funny. Okay, I missed something. Okay, so I was going to end with Trillium, but one other thing that seems almost obsession-worthy is the Adventures of Superman. It's been a surprise pleasure. The short stories, seeing all the different versions of Superman. It could end up being, if it keeps up as strong as it's been, it could end up being like one of my favorite comic books. And just kind of exciting to see with each new story, what are they going to do? What's going to happen? How are they going to change it? And I'm really kind of interested in the short form right now in comic books, both in that and in the Legends of the Dark Knight. These 10-page stories seem really exciting to me. Okay, thanks for hanging in there with me, and I will obsess some more later.